Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is Brian McKay, Systems Engineer here at Variphy. I'll be your host for today's session, where we will be discussing how to build Webex call reports and dashboards for your executives. Here to walk us through it, we have fellow engineer Mike Stratton. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, Brian. How are you?
Good, very good. Please note these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours, so you can review them at any time. Check out the webinars page at variphy.com for all our past and upcoming sessions. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our agenda. First, we'll start off with a quick overview of what Variphy can do for you. Then we'll jump into the live demo where Mike's going to guide us through creating some Webex dashboards and reports tailored specifically for your executives. We'll pause for Q&A during the demo. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the chat window. After Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around to see if you've won. Quick overview of Variphy. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution tool for Cisco, Zoom, and now Teams collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, Cisco Cube, CDR, Zoom, and Webex call reporting, and our most recent addition as of Variphy 16, Microsoft Teams call reporting. If you have any questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@variphy.com or reach out to your account manager. And one more thing before we head off into the demo. For an additional fee, Variphy offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Variphy's SE team will engage with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you with a dedicated Variphy support engineer to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free and hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'd be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our enhanced consulting services, or ECS. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and get into the wild. Go ahead and take it away, Mike.
All right, I can see my screen, so I'm sharing the right screen. All right, let's get going.
Yep, I got you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar workshop. So the objective today is to kind of go over a request that we get from time to time is when we're talking about like executive style reports. And there's kind of like there's two things that are commonly common patterns when we get that kind of a request. One, the executive is not the one building the widget or dashboard or report. It's usually the administrator of the system or whoever handles those requests. And the executive wants something that's visual that they can quickly look at, easy to read because they have they're busy people and they don't want to spend time digging through data unless they're on the analytics side and where they just want like a straight just dump of data from the database for them to dig through, and that's also possible. So we're kind of going with the two assumptions, easy, colorful, easy to look at, quick to the point, and they're not the ones building it, so you'll be building it for them. So I'm going to start off in the dashboard. Usually I go in the reports, but in this case I think most executives are kind of lean towards like a dashboard that they can open and just kind of look at, or on the other side they may want like a weekly report that they get or a monthly report too. So we'll kind of cover both. So demo system is up right here running. It's running our current release, which is 16.1, which came out, I believe, if I remember correctly, that last week. Our demo server was having some problems today, so I kind of recreated my dashboard on our old demo server. So I've got two servers up and running right now, this guy and this guy. Both ones kind of show the same stuff. So we'll kind of, I may jump between both depending upon how today goes. So, all right. So dashboards and widgets. So, what you build will depend upon the executive. It'll depend upon what they want to see. I just have some examples here to kind of give you some ideas on what you're looking for. So when looking for like color or graphs or something that's easy to build out on the Webex side, I always avoid, the one widget I avoid is let me bring it up. One I avoid is always the call history details, and I can have it open. You can definitely take a look at it. I don't know if I have it open here. No, I don't. But that one just shows you just a call by call breakdown of all the information. If that's what they want to see, where they want to see that the last 10 abandoned calls or the last 10 calls to a hunt group, certainly go with it. But I didn't use it here. Starting off top left corner, this is showing the all calls by date. Or in here, we'll go here first. the inbound call volume. There's different ways to use this widget. This is the call volume by time period widget. When setting it up, once you build your search sets, you can the one main part of this widget to select is the time period type. So do you want to see it by, or how do you want to present your data? So what it does is it does your search based on your query, and then it groups the data based on some sort of time period. So you can go as small as every quarter hour, half hour, hour of day, date, day of week or month. In my original version of it, I had it broken down by date. In my other version, I also had it broken down by date as well. So the two main points: pick your date, and then also pick your date range on the time period. So everything here, current and previous week, is what I went with, just because it's a lab, and I wanted to get as much data as I could to kind of show you, what a busy system would look like. This is a great widget for just giving them data at a glance to see either what's your busiest day, what's your busy hour. If you're looking at like hunt groups, anything like staffing. I mean, maybe executive wouldn't care so much about staffing, but like managers, those types of folks. When looking at when you're busy, when you're not busy, this widget will kind of give you an insight as to what's going on. So in this case, there's a couple different ways to configure it. In this widget, I'm looking for inbound calls. So when it comes to direction with Webex reporting, we have 3 options available. There's terminating, internal, and originating. If you want to see all inbound or outbound calls, you can look at terminating or originating. The difference is terminating is inbound, so it's terminating at like a phone or an object within your environment. Originating means it originated within a phone or object within your Webex organization. Internal means both sides of the call were within your Webex organization. So like the way the data works is you have on any sort of internal call, like if a hunt group is delivering a call to an agent, 2 employees are calling each other, there's a terminating leg and an originating leg. We combine them together in one leg to make them internal. So if you only want to see the calls with one leg, that's where you get into inbound or outbound calls, right? From the PSTN into or out of your organization. Another way, if you want to see another kind of trick or tip when using this widget, if you want to highlight certain scenarios like abandoned calls, not connected calls, voicemail calls, when you're building your criteria, if you look for the call scenario type search criteria, this is a newer criteria. It's available for Call Manager, Zoom, Webex, and Teams reporting. When you come down, there's a list of different scenarios. So instead of having to, create, complex criterias, you can auto select them. So, in the old days, if you want to see all calls, we would pick like a calling number and then put in like a wild card. Now you can come in, go to call scenario types, select total calls, and now you have a widget that's including all your calls. And then now you can just configure the widget to display what you're looking for. And I've said a couple times already, abandoned calls. So new to Webex reporting in 16.1, which came out last week, we added support for the abandoned call scenario. So now if you want to, before we just had, answered or not connected. Now, so if you're 16.1 does include, logic for abandoned calls. So if you want to upgrade, really easy to do. If you haven't upgraded before, shoot us a support ticket at Variphy, at support@variphy.com, and we can help you, walk you through upgrading your software. So, okay, let me get out of here. Go back to this guy. All calls by date, same thing. I'm looking for all calls should be all calls instead of inbound calls. Probably timed out. We'll come back in, and then moving clockwise is the calls distribution widget. This is the one here showing top call queues. Also, the one over here showing top hunt groups. This one kind of is closely related to the grouping widget, where you're taking a search and you're grouping it on something. In this case, I'm grouping it on the call queues. Over here, I'm grouping on the hunt groups. But instead of just giving you a number, a count, or how many calls there were, or how many records, or whatever, it's displaying, like how much, what percent of a pie, these calls are. So we can see, how many more calls. And if I hover, I get a call count here. But we can see just how many more calls, the finance queue is receiving over the executive queue. In this case, we have multiple hunt groups in my selection, so we can see, get a breakdown of how many calls each hunt group is taking. Now, again, you can use the same logic with the call scenarios to see, just to only to show answered calls. You can show only abandoned calls. You can show all calls. There's different ways to configure the widget based on what the executive wants to see. And you're not even limited to just call queues or hunkers. I mean, anything really. If I edit this widget here, let me see. So when you're configuring the widget under the configuration section here, scroll down a little bit and you'll see the primary grouping type. So this is telling the widget what it's grouping on. So here, called hunc group, you can do it on users, different managers. If you want to see different, maybe like different teams, you want to see which manager and then their team has more calls or more abandoned calls, or different locations if you have multiple locations within Webex. So there's a couple different options where you can break down the calls, also by call type. So if you want to see your call types or direction that way too. And this widget here is the grouping widget. It's going to take, it's the grouping statistics widget will give you the same type of breakdown that what you see when running a report and using the grouping section. So this widget here is looking at the calling or called party name. So we're taking the username from the data, and then we're grouping on the top, in this case, the top 10, but you can always add more up into 50. So if you want to change up to 15, you can add more. And then I'm searching on just all calls. But again, you can create different search sets. If you have certain reports that the executive wants to use, you can instead of creating the search set, you can come in here, pick an existing Webex report, and then you can use the search set from one of those reports instead of having to create a search set for every widget or for this widget. Time period, same thing, looking for the current and previous week. And down below, we have the different grouping stats. So here, sequence count, abandoned call count, total call count, total call sequence count, the difference between those two. And that's something that it's how the data is presented to the executive. So when looking at those two, total call count will give you the total call count or the total count of all of the rows of data. When you're getting into the sequence count, that uses the cradle to grave or the sequence data to give you a number of how many sequences there are. So when calls are being transferred, we'll see multiple legs. When a call is presented to a hunc group or a call queue in Webex's data, we get those 0 duration records for every time a call is presented to an agent when it rings, whether or not they answer. So like if you're coming from Cisco Call Manager and you're moving to Webex, the old hunc group data, we would get 1 record when the agent answered. You wouldn't see records for when the calls were presented to the other agents. But in Webex's data, we get a record for every time or for every agent where the phone rings. So when you're looking at hunc group or call queue data, if you rely on the total call counts, yeah, the number's accurate, but it's going to give you an inflated number of how many unique calls there were. So when you're running any sort of widget for the executive, if they ask, hey, how many calls came into my hunc group, total call count will give a much higher count. It's going to give you the total number of records or events. The sequence count will give you a much more accurate number. So here, in this case, this is breaking it down by user though, but if I want to see, if they're really interested in the hunc group data, you could always just change the dropdown to called hunc group and save it. And then once it refreshes, give it a second. While it's doing that, once it refreshes, then it'll show the top hunc groups. Okay, moving counterclockwise, we already did hunc groups. Another grouping widget, this is just showing the call traffic, how many internal, originating, terminating calls there were. Real simple to create. Same thing as this widget up here, but instead of grouping on the hunc group or the called party name, we're just grouping it on direction, and then we're sorting it based on the name of the label. And then this widget right here, this is the concurrent call activities widget. I really like this widget, especially when looking at with executives. If they want to see, how busy something is, whether it's your entire system, how busy the entire organization is, how busy one or more call queues or hunc groups are, or a department, a location. The call activity widget is a little bit different from what you're seeing over here with the time period widget because it's looking at the number of concurrent calls. So when looking at like staffing for a team, for a hunt group, for a site, a sales department, anything, our call center, it's not real. I mean, you can look at what your busy hour is, but this is looking at what your busiest moment in time is. So we can see here, if I hover over this on the 7th, between 12 p.m. and 12:09 p.m., there were 46 concurrent calls. So not 46, total calls, but at one point in time, there were 46 overlapping calls, or 46 calls going on at one point in time. So when it comes to just how busy you are, this is a great widget to show someone. They don't have to sort through data to look at how many calls there were, or to count calls. This just tells you, hey, this is, I'm looking at here, 47 calls. Here's 50 calls. And so I can see, when we're busy. You can click on the boxes here. We'll turn off certain dates. So you can kind of drill down to certain, specific times, or, specific dates. You can see, here on I can get a better look at the 7th. I can see, 45 peak calls, 47, 46. So my peak usage was, 47. This is, again, one of my favorite widgets. It's just really, it's great to look at, but it can give you so much data that otherwise would be just really difficult to manually pull out of the call records. When configuring it, let's jump in here. Big thing would be time period, your search set. So here I'm looking for all calls, but you can pick a specific hunt group, multiple hunt groups, locations, whatever your executive is looking for. Or pull it from an existing report. And then the other big part would be the data interval here, whether you want it broken down by every 10 minutes, 15, 30, or hour. So here, I'll change this. So instead of seeing a dot or a point for every 10 minutes, it's going to show a dot for every hour instead. And then I'll hit refresh. And then on the far left, this is the statistics widget. This is great. It's a simple widget. You can show one or more stats. And it's just going to show you, it's going to highlight certain metrics that are really important to the user or to the executive. In this case, I'm looking at call queue stats. Again, it's easy to read. It's a big data. It's a big number, and it catches your eye. So here I'm looking at call queue stats. You can pick one metric or one value or one stat. Here I've got multiples. So here, my queue call count is 10. I can use the arrows. Then I have my queue call percentage. So how many out of all my queue call, or out of all my calls to my call queues, how many actually, were queued. And then we also have, what's the average queue duration? In this case, it's 0 seconds. I don't think there's a lot of queue data in this this data set. Only 10 calls. But again, here's just a quick widget here. I'm looking at abandoned calls. The current previous week, there were 493 abandoned calls, and that makes up 100% of whatever I think I was searching for, all the abandoned calls in the search set. Yeah, so I was looking for all the abandoned calls. But instead, I can go total calls, and then this will refresh. Then it'll update. And with the refresh, also, with executives, if many times they want to be hands off. So instead of giving them, they may not even want to log into the software. If they just want like a link that they can pull up, we always have the permalinks. So if you edit your dashboard, turn on public permalinks or allow public access, then you can just send them this URL. They'll open it like any other permalink in their browser. They can bookmark it. So instead of having to log into the software and then navigate to the dashboard or pick a dashboard from a dropdown, they can just go to the permalink and then it'll load. And they can just keep it open. The permalink won't time out. And they can always go back to it whenever they need to. So here's my ban account, 334. 1.7% of the abandoned calls. Also, like for going back to this widget right here, so the column name, so call hunt group, total call sequence count, even the abandoned call count is kind of a long name for the column. If for any reason, like if any of the column names are confusing or just too large, or just the executive or the whoever you're building the widget for, they don't understand what it means. If you jump into the call analytics section, let's see if this did time out. So here's I'll let that load. Here's the permalink. So again, they'll see a copy of this of the dashboard. They can look, they can change the appearance, they can refresh the individual widgets if they have to, but they can't modify anything. They can't break anything or accidentally delete anything. Whoever is the administrator or person who built the widget, will have access to control it. But the executive will be more hands off than if they had access to the system. So going back to reports, if we go to change back our Webex cluster platform, go to configure. Under the configure section, there's a tab here for custom label sets. You can create label sets that allow you to change column names and reports, names and field names, and dashboards and widgets as well. So I've already created one called executive labels. If I apply it, so change my appearance, click on widget, go down to your label set here, click on executive labels, and then it should refresh. And then now I changed the name for sequence call count to total count, and then I just kind of abbreviated abandoned to make it a little bit shorter so it'll fit. As far as formatting goes, you can edit the widget, or they can edit the widget too. Edit the widget. They can go down to appearance, change the font size. They have to change the font size and change the vertical spacing. So if you need to fit everything into a much smaller space, they can. And if you want to change the column width, click on this icon up here, and then slide, and you can change the space here. You can move it down here and save it, and we're all set. Okay, I think that kind of covers it with the dashboards. We have a couple minutes left. Let me jump into some reports for those executives. When it comes to executive reports, a lot of times, they're not looking for something that they can run every day or just run on demand. Most of the time, is they want a report that they receive either as like in their inbox every morning, or they receive it on the first of the month or every Monday or something like that. So what you put in the report is really going to depend on what they're interested in. They want to see total call volume, abandoned calls, hunt groups, call queues, how many calls, a breakdown by location. I mean, that's all up to them and to you to decide what you want to see. My recommendation, sometimes I say, well, what can the software do? Or what can we do? Start with the templates. If you haven't already, you can download the templates off of our website, bring them into the Variphy system, and then, start running some reports to get them ideas as to what we can do. If they want to see hunt groups, if they're really interested in hunt groups, run the hunt group reports. There's two. You have the hunt group summary and hunt group agent report. I've made a copy so using the copy function, this icon down here, you can make a copy of the report. I just modified it. Timed out again. The old guy here. But you can make a copy of it. Yeah, it's probably timed out, but while I was waiting. But with the hunt group report, you can, here's this example of it. I expanded it to run for every hunt group. So I pick all calls. I grouped it on on the hunt groups. Now I have a breakdown for every hunt group in my organization, just, total call count, answer call count, not connected call count. And then we can break it down by that way. And then we have also a graph or a chart for each hunt group. So again, we're getting visual, we're not overloading the executive with a lot of data that they have to sort through unless they want to. But they can see it at a glance and see, which hunt groups are busy, how many calls are coming in and that sort of information. When building out the templates, here again, a manager report. So this is looking at using secondary grouping. We've got a call here, or we've got calls where we're grouping it first by the manager, and then a breakdown of all the different users under the manager. So if they have, managers that report to them, you can filter it on those certain managers and then give a report that shows, this isn't showing how many calls Angeline placed or received, but this is showing you how many calls the manager's team placed. So it's taking all of these users here, and then it's giving you a summary here for each manager. So you can see, total call count, inbound, outbound calls, average durations, total call durations, all that good stuff there. And then usually, when it comes to the report, when it comes to formatting, you could also remove a lot of stuff. So here, I quickly built an abandoned call report using the same, the abandoned call scenarios. And so I have, the default with the search set, total call count, 1,143 calls for the previous, I think, 2 weeks. I'm breaking it down by hour of day. So let me get into there real quick. Let's see which one is not going to time out. So when building a report, if you want to see your data report broken down in a time interval. So if they want like a report showing, break down my total calls by hour, by week, by date. When you're building a report, there's two spots where you can do that. Under the search set stats, if you come down here and then turn on the show total call statistics data table, it'll give you the option then to select a time unit and to select your data type. So in this case, hour a day, total call count, but you can add in, total call duration, average duration, there's that sequence count. And if you want to, the new in 16.1, the abandoned call count or abandoned call percentage. So there's different ways to present the data. Here we're looking at abandoned calls. We have your total count, your hourly breakdown, and then just a simple chart. In the chart itself, if I go back, when creating a report, you come all the way to the bottom under the search set stats. And there's also a separate chart under the grouping stats. If you are grouping on something like by hunt group, like for that previous hunt group report where I had one chart per each hunt group, under the grouping section, just come down and then look for the show grouping call scenario volume charts here, or under the search set stats, same thing, show total call volume, show total call scenario volume charts, PDF and HTML only. So you'll only see this if you're running it as a PDF or HTML formatting. And then, so this report here is 3 pages. If you want to even make it simpler, you could remove the top table. Like if this isn't necessary, you could remove it, go under the search set stats, and then at the top, turn off the summary table, and that will remove this and then give you this report. So now we've gone from 3 pages to 2. If you want to make it even simpler and you want to remove the hourly breakdown, if they only want like a single page report with just this graph on there, when you're here, turn off what was turned on was this toggle here, turn it off, and that'll give you this report here. And then to even make it a little bit cleaner, you could also go back under the basics and then turn off the headers and everything else, and that'll give you just a simple single page with an extra page in the back there, but it's a simple, a simple single page report with a graph. So, but really, it's up to the executive. With what you want to build, and go from there. But with most of the reports, once you have them built, you'll probably want to schedule it. Jump at the top of the page in reports, go to schedules, and then scheduling is pretty straightforward. On the right-hand side, click on Create Schedule. Under the settings, give it a name. Just call it Mike. Report, pick your report. Pick this report here. And then under the frequency, we have hourly, day of week, or by month. If you want a weekly report, select day of week, and then just turn off every other date except Monday or Wednesday or however you want to do it. Or you can do hourly or by month. So if you want by month, like a monthly report, select your months. You can select all, pick which day it runs on, and then the search time window menu, you can do type the word month, current month, previous month. If you're running it on the first for the current month, it's only going to give you a couple hours worth of data. So in that case, if you're running it, on the first of the month, just pick previous month or previous, however you want to do it. You can exclude or include it as the week, and then pick your delivery: PDF, Excel, HTML, CSV. Your delivery method, in most cases, will be email, and then pick your recipient from the drop-down list. And that's it. I'm going to pause here. I know we're running a long time. Brian, I'll punt it back to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike. Great job as always. Let me go ahead and take control back here. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Be sure to register for our upcoming workshop, Microsoft Teams, Streamline Call Reporting with Templates. It's going to be next week, same time, hosted by Matt and Jim. So be sure to register for that. Also, a quick reminder, we will not be having a webinar the first week of June because we'll be at Cisco Live. So if you plan on attending, please reach out to us or to your account manager and let us know so that we can keep you in the loop on any customer appreciation events. And also, we'll have a booth on the floor as always, so feel free to stop by and visit. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for attending. Mike, thanks again. Great job. And we will see you all next time.